Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 433 of Screw the Commute podcast. Today we're going to talk about website hacking. Ooh, we probably get 10 to 20 calls a year with reports that someone that knows me got their website hacked and they somehow think I know how to fix it. All right, well, I don't know how to fix it, but my tech guys do, and they also have good advice on what to do to prevent it in the first place. And that's what this episode is about. But don't worry, this is not a technical discussion. All right, I hope you didn't miss episode 432. That was Ty Belknap. He was a homeless teenager and ended up with multiple degrees, I can't even say it, and a doctorate. And he's got a very interesting method on how to recruit and use remote workers that he told us all about. So make sure you grab that at episode 432 in case you missed it. And if you're wondering how to get to back episodes, you go to screwthecommute.com/ and then the episode number. His was 432. This is 433. Well, how would you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? Well, if the show's helped you out at all in your business or given you ideas to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. Visit screwthecommute.com and look for a little blue sidebar that says send a voicemail. Click on it, talk into your phone or computer, and tell me how the show's helped you. And hey, also put your website in there so you can get a big shout out in your own voice on a future episode of Screw the Commute. Now, pick up a copy of our automation ebook. It allows me to handle enormous numbers of customers and subscribers without pulling my hair out, and just really knocks my workload way, way down and allows me to reach more people and make more money. So grab that at screwthecommute.com/automate free, screwthecommute.com/automate free. And also, we have a podcast app. You can put it on your website, on your tablet or on your cell phone, and you can take us with you on the road, and we show you how to use it. A lot of times apps, they just throw them at you and expect you to figure it out. Well, we have screenshots and videos to show you how to use it, so you have a lot of fun taking us with you on the road. All right, check out my school. It's the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school and digital marketing school in the country, probably the world. It's licensed to operate by SCHEV, the State Council on Higher Education in Virginia, but you don't have to live in Virginia. You can also, you can give it as a gift or a scholarship to a young person in your life and really give them a career with skills that are in high demand everywhere, instead of putting them in deep debt at some college somewhere and then they're competing for jobs at Starbucks. So check it out at imtcva.org. And a little later, I'll tell you how you can get a full scholarship if you happen to be in my mentor program. All right, let's get to the main event, website hacking. So how do you know if your website has been hacked? Well, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the hacker is using the resources of your website server or your hosting service where your website is held to send spam emails and do other kind of nasty things I'll tell you about in a minute. And look how sneaky this is. They use a thing called cloaking, and that's when a hacker makes the website look just fine to you, but it shows all their other craziness, spam links and malicious code to the search engine in hopes someone else will see you in the search results, and all the dangerous links and downloads will be available on your site to hurt them, and you have no clue that it even happened. And sometimes it's more obvious. I mean, your website might look crazy, it won't load, it doesn't work right, so sometimes that's more obvious. Now, here's one thing to note. You can do everything right and still get hacked. So what I'm trying to do here is to enormously reduce the chances that you do get hacked. There's no 1,000% money back guarantee, all right, because these spammers are insidious, and or these hackers. And you might think, the chances are slim. And I'll tell you why, even if you have a site that's not that big, why you can get hacked and why they would want to hack you. All right, now, one of the first lines of defense against this kind of activity is you should register your site at Google Search Console. When you do this, part of what Google does is issue you a security report and notices if they detect something wrong. Now, you can either do this yourself or demand that anyone working on your website runs a report at bare minimum a couple times per day, okay, depending on the amount of traffic you have. Now, anything that happens in between your reports will be reported to you via email from Google. But if you miss the email, all the warnings are in your Google Search Console with recommendations on how to fix it. And I don't know how to fix this stuff, but I got people that do. But Google will tell you, and they're watching your site all the time for you. So that's a totally free service that you'd be crazy not to take advantage of. Now, I'm going to include a link in the show notes to a 6-minute video telling you all about the Google Search Console and what hackers may be doing with your site and suggestions on how to fix them. So check out the show notes for the link to that Google video. And I got to tell you, after all these years of working online, I can't fix any of these problems. That's what competent tech people are for. However, it is your responsibility and my responsibility to make sure these checks are done because it's your website and you're the bottom line if it's being used maliciously and you don't do anything about it. Plus, if Google detects something wrong and you don't do anything about it, it will report your site as unsafe to potential visitors, which will pretty much kill your traffic. Done. And if it continues, you'll get blacklisted from the search engines and you'll never show up again. All right, so what are some of the things that can happen to your website? Well, one is called ransomware. This is where some kind of malicious code locks up your computer and you have to pay a fortune to the hacker to get your computer unlocked. And once they get your money, they probably just forget about you. They just say, screw you, and go find somebody else to hack and not even bother unlocking your computer. You just got ripped off, in other words. SEO spam or search engine optimization spam is where your website is infected with spam keywords to get some fake pages to show up in Google that do any number of bad things to people. Like maybe they make a page on your website, you don't even know it exists, that looks like Bank of America to get people to put in their banking information for identity theft and to just rob their money. Yeah, it can be that bad. Another thing is adware, which they just deliver spam ads to visitors to your website or uses your website resources to show these ads to anybody. Another thing is malicious redirects. This is where they take your traffic and send it somewhere else to some other actual site. The first one was where they're just making fake pages on your site. Malicious redirect means that the traffic hits your site and automatically redirected to porn or pharmaceuticals or any kind of bad stuff. You can be sure it's not going to be good for your visitors. I'll put it that way. They can also use your site as a resource to send spam email. Behind the scenes, you never know what hits you. I mean, some studies show that up to 40% of your website traffic are bots, and half of those are malicious bots. That's a lot of bad stuff that's potentially going on. And these hackers are relentless, and they're always looking for ways to penetrate websites. So you have to keep up with this or rely on services and software to do it for you. Another thing is a brute force attack, where a really fast computer, they can crack an 8-character password in about 2 hours. Now, I also included a link to about brute force attacks so that you can read more about them and what they do with these attacks once they crack your code. Now, let's talk about backups. Now, I've been harping on this for 100 years, but one thing you must do and not just for hackers, but for equipment failure, is to have a regular schedule of backups. So if your server goes down, you have immediate access to your files so you can get them back up fast. But let me tell you what to watch out for. So this happened to me long ago. I learned my lesson, so I'm passing it on to you. So a lot of these web hosts say, hey, we have, 10 days of backup for you and all this stuff. Well, that sounds good, but I'll tell you what happened to me. So Antion.com or the hosting service at the time went down. And everybody's freaking out and they say, don't worry, we have backups for everybody. Yeah, it took 10 days for them to get the site back up because they had millions and millions and millions of websites to restore. So I think it's just ludicrous to think one hosting service doing the backups for you. That's just crazy, because if they get hacked, maybe a lot of the stuff they have gets hacked. Even if they're using a cloud service somewhere else, you just can't trust it. So you always have multiple backups in different places, even locally, so you can restore your stuff if something gets hacked. Within a day, usually you can get you back up and running. Now, backups are also important if you get hacked, because you have a backup before you got hacked that can be used to restore your website after the threat has been neutralized on your server. But guess what? That's not even 100% effective. Why? Because a hacker might get in and plant code in your website and then wait months to use it. So your backup is infected too. Now, it's still important to have backups, but whoever is doing the restore of your files should absolutely check if the restore is infected, and then they have to fix it too. Or you're just slopping, you're just ruining all their work to clean up your website and then putting a backup on that's already infected. That's just crazy. So you have to know about these things. Like I said, you don't have to know how to do them. It's your responsibility as the website owner to know about them, to make sure that it doesn't happen. And I got to tell you, I've had tech people come and go over 25 years, and they claim to be tech people, but a lot of them don't know this stuff. So you have to make sure that they know what you're talking about, and they do this on a regular basis and report to you. It's your responsibility. Now, another protection that people tend to ignore is strong passwords that are changed regularly. I mean, 9-year-olds can run programs on your site that can easily crack passwords that are simple for you to remember, but no problem for a hacker to crack. And you must change, listen to this, all your passwords and all your user ID passwords, user passwords, and your FTP password, because you don't know for sure which one could have been the one compromised. And then here's another thing. Don't use the username admin, right? That's what every hacker with a union card is going to use to attack, all right? And the longer the password, the better. Now, I use a password manager, highly encrypted, military-grade encryption, called RoboForm. There's other ones, so 1Password is another very popular one. RoboForm's a little bit easier. And it holds all my passwords. It'll generate really hard-to-crack passwords, so you don't have to remember them. You just have to remember one really good password to get into RoboForm, and it remembers the rest of them, and it backs it up encrypted into the cloud for you. So that's a must. I tell all of my new students they got to get that, because I can't tell you how many times people have, they pay me a lot of money to get on the phone with me, and then 20 minutes later, they still can't show me what they want to because they can't find the password. All right. So get your passwords under control, and then you can have really tough to crack passwords. See, they can crack the password, but it's just how long will it take? If it takes 6 years to crack the password, well, that's much better than one they can crack in 6 minutes, okay? Because they'll get sick of you and they'll leave. So get a password manager. And then change your standard login page. Like for your WordPress site, the standard is like yoursite.com/WP-admin. Well, that can be changed to anything you want. Like log in here, you doofus, or I don't know, but anything. We have a lot of different ones, and it's hard. It's just all of these things add up to make it harder to crack your system. Now, here's another thing. It's a little bit off topic here, but it's a current SSL certificate is massively important. I mean, this shows the little lock on your browser. Now, this doesn't really have anything to do with your site getting hacked, but it has a lot to do with being trusted by your visitor and by search engines. And your web host can easily provide this for you, either paid or free. The free ones are a little more pain in the neck because you have to renew them more frequently. And I bring this up because not only do you have to start worrying about being hacked and thinking about security, your visitors worry if your site is secure or not. So start thinking security from both your end and your visitors' end. So get an SSL certificate if you don't have it. Now, make sure you control the users of your site, and only highly trusted and competent people should have admin access. Now, if someone had to, let's say, work on your site, remove their access after they're done working. Don't leave a whole bunch of users laying out there just ripe to be hacked. Another thing you can do is always update your site. And I know most people use WordPress, and we do here also. I also know it's a pain to update it all the time, all right? But what you may not realize is that updates aren't always about some cool feature you're not going to use. Updates are frequently security fixes where you never see a difference in the site, but they are designed to close security loopholes which always exist. And like I said, hackers are relentless looking for ways to compromise your sites. Another thing, plugins and themes. Make sure your plugins and themes are from a reputable company and have many users and great comments. We use Thrive themes here, and we only use plugins that are highly reputable. And we run into this all the time. People have, we're reviewing a site and they have 40 or 50 plugins that aren't updated or activated and just clogging up their website and pretty much waving a big flag to the hackers. Hey, come on, get me. I'm right here. I'm waiting for you. Now, another thing is hosting. If you get super cheap hosting, a lot of times, you're just on your own. So before you pick hosting, you might want to ask them, do you fix, the generic term would be malware issues for you if something happens? And some will, some won't. Some will sell you a big package to do it if you need it. Some will call it managed hosting. So you have to look in deeper. I mean, I think we have a whole episode on hosting on one of these episodes. Now, whenever possible, you want to add what's called two-factor authentication. This sometimes a thing called a cPanel. If you have one of those for your website, it makes it easier for non-techie people to do stuff on your website. I think it was invented by techies who got sick of fielding calls for easy stuff. But anyway, whenever you can you use two-factor authentication. And what that means is somebody even had your user ID and password, they still couldn't get into your site unless they had access to your telephone number and your smartphone. You can't log in without it. So that's an extra layer of security. And also protect your own darn computer. And you think, well, what's that got to do with my website? Well, it has a lot to do with your website, because if you don't have antivirus software up to date and effective firewall, then some of the viruses are intended to steal your login details and send them to somebody else, or just grab them and use them themselves. And then they have a thing called a keylogger. Now, we actually use this when I have a lot of employees. I use a keylogger to make sure they're doing their work. And I tell them, don't do anything personal on this computer that I gave you, because everything, user IDs, passwords, everything are going to get sent to me. So that kind of keeps employees a little bit, it doesn't really anymore because they can just go on their cell phone, but it makes sure that you can see that they're actually working if they're remote. But also, bad people use this stuff. In fact, if somebody had access to your computer at work, it wouldn't take, I don't know, 15 seconds to add a physical keylogger in the wiring to your computer. And now they're grabbing everything that you got and recording it. And then they come in a day later or a couple days later, take the thing off out of the wires, and then boom, they got all your stuff. So these are things you want to protect your computer too. Now, if you've happened to have any custom code, and I've got to tell you, I can't think of one instance in the 27 years I've been online that I've had custom code written. But anyway, custom code, well, if you say, oh, I'm going to get something, my website to do something cool, and I'll get this somebody from some foreign country to write the code for me. Well, you just might be paying for them to sneak into your computer, and you probably can't evaluate the code yourself. So if you do get custom code for some reason, make sure you send it through a security company or something and ask them to check it for you before you install it or let it be installed, because you're just asking for trouble. Now, a lot of people say, well, gee, who's going to hack me? I just got a informational site up there, whatever. Well, even if your site is small, you're not safe. I mean, you would think no one would want to bother hacking you. But as the late comedian John Panette used to say, oh, nay, nay. All right. See, so let's say a hacker has a list of 1,000 sites his malicious bot has identified as being unsecure. He snuck into 1,000 sites. He could use those 1,000 sites to do what's called a distributed denial of service attack. That's DDoS on a larger site. And this is where you flood the larger site with traffic, which essentially crashes it. So it's like flooding too many people into one room. You just overflow. Nobody can get anything done. So it keeps out the good people because all these fake people are in there. So that's they're using your site as just one of the many to screw over some big site. I remember one time I heard of a hacker that sent the equivalent of all the text in the Bible 1 million times to crash some big site. These people don't care about you. That's nasty business. They might get paid by a competitor to do it. And sending the Bible, I don't think that's a very Christian thing to do that to you. So there's other things like injection attacks where they put some kind of code that grabs your WordPress database and runs your website. And, and those things happen because you didn't pay attention to all these other things. Now, you might want to have you definitely want to have a website firewall, it's called. And WordFence is one of the best known. And I put a video in here telling you about WordFence. And also, if you totally get screwed and you're hacked like crazy and your host won't help you, there's a company called Sucuri. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's SUCURI.net, who specialize in this and can fix up, whatever you got going. But, if you've screwed yourself over with no backups and just everything blown up, it's just cost you more and you'll be down longer. So we're also happy to help you with this. We make this a point to tell our students, and some of them, like I said, do everything right and still get hacked. So you have to know that's a possibility. Keep good backups, do the password thing, all the things we talked about in this episode. And like I said, we'll help you if you're in our mentor program, which is I promised to tell you about this, where you could get a scholarship to our school, which is one of the benefits of the great internet marketing training.com mentor program that I've been running for 23 years and 1,700 students. And it's extremely unique in that we have a financial model where we don't get our big money unless you make big money. And you have an immersion weekend, of course, when the pandemic's over, at the retreat center in Virginia Beach. And we have a TV studio. We shoot videos for you, all kinds of perks. You have unlimited access to me and my entire staff for a year, one-on-one. Just amazing program. It's the longest running ever and most successful and most unique. And I triple dog dare people to put theirs up against mine, so nobody will do it. But anyway, check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. Like I said, you also get a scholarship that you can either use yourself or gift to someone else in your life. And it would be one of the best gifts you could ever give somebody, because they'll have skills that will keep them employed or having their own business or both for a long time. And they will coming home and living with you because they'll have their own money. All right, so go out and protect your website, check out all these things, and don't get hacked if you can avoid it. All right, we'll catch you all in the next episode. See you later.